Hey, welcome back to day 3 of my quantum leap experiment that I am basically doing a little bit on the fly, but that is part of quantum leaping, which is great. So we'll get into it. In day 1, we talked about getting uncomfortable, which going live still makes me uncomfortable, but we're back. And today I was still in my head trying to make up excuses. I had to wash my hair, things like that I was telling myself I could probably get away with not doing it. I could say I forgot. I was coming up with all of the excuses. So I had to overcome all of that mental BS and wash my hair and be here, right? So it's not rocket science, but that's what I had to do. So I'm still making myself feel uncomfortable. It does get easier. I don't actually mind it once I'm getting going. And also, I haven't died. So I think a lot of this time when we have resistance to doing things, our bodies, our nervous systems are trying to keep us safe, of course. And if we go deep enough down the rabbit hole of, and then what, the fear is probably that you might die. So I have to do it a few times to remind myself, to remind my nervous system that nothing bad happens, everything's going to be okay, and it's fine. Being live is safe. It's okay. We can do it. So there's that. And then on day 2, we talked a little bit about coming up with your big crazy goal, a dream, a desire, something you can get excited about, and staying in the end goal, staying in that excitement and sort of suspending the how in the middle. So not wondering, it can't happen, I don't have enough people, followers, whatever the thing is, right? Suspending that how bit in the middle and going for it anyway. So far in the experiment, a couple of cool things happened yesterday. I got invited to speak on a podcast, and also another piece that was really exciting was invited to potentially co-host a retreat in the US next year. So I think that is pretty awesome for one day. Also got asked out on a date. So, all very lovely, positive things. So nothing bad has happened because of me going live and putting my face on the internet. So that's all good and exciting. And as a little projector in human design, 6'2" projector, I will add, I love the invites. I'm very happy. I'm open and available for invitations on podcasts, in groups, do trainings, all that kind of good stuff. So I'm here, ask away. On that note, I am also looking for some podcast guests for my own show, The Flow Show. And we had a great podcast go live yesterday. I've had some lovely feedback on that as well. Really appreciate it. If you haven't checked it out, please do. I'll pop the link below for the latest episode. It was a great conversation about not being weird and salesy in building a 6-figure business. So that felt really good, really lovely conversation there. And there's lots of fun things. But yeah, if you are interested in being a guest, hit me up, let me know. And the premise of the show is about flow stories. We talk about, maybe this is going to be your quantum leap, who knows, right? Maybe you feel a bit uncomfortable doing that. Maybe it's a risk, right? All of those good things. So flow stories are stories of synchronicity, of awe, of wonder, where the series of events that happened could not have happened without a higher power at play. So God, Spirit, the universe, something wonderful was supporting your story, right? And so I absolutely love stories of synchronicity and these flow moments. Which just make it really special. We're talking about spirituality, business building, all that kind of good stuff as well. But the sort of through line are these flow stories, and even just the guests that turn up and the people that I get in contact with all somehow fit into that part of the flow story. We've also been talking a lot about planetary grid work, kind of accidentally, but it seems all of my guests are on some sort of planetary grid work adventure, whether consciously or unconsciously. And while that's not maybe the whole focus of the whole conversation, it's usually weaved in somewhere. So that is always really fun. So just as an example, we had Christine talking yesterday on the podcast that went up about growing your six-figure business and being, in sort of soulful sales and that kind of thing, which was a really cool conversation. But at the end, it turns out she got married in Scotland. I'm in Scotland doing my planetary grid work. She'd been to Culloden. Her new husband that she got married in Scotland to is actually part of the Fraser clan. And Outlander was based on this real clan called the Frasers, and he is part of that. And so they went to Culloden and honoured his family, and went to Loch Ness, and these are all places that are part of the retreat that is coming up. So if you're interested in the retreat, let me know. The early bird pricing is on up until the solstice, so the end of next week. So yeah, very, very exciting. So I just love that these pieces of the puzzle, we weren't intending to talk about that. I didn't know she had a connection to Scotland, or had been called there and is feeling called back again. So a lot of, I'm noticing a lot of leaders and people in our industry are feeling that call to come to Scotland. And so hosting the retreat can help facilitate that as well, which is really lovely. All right, back to quantum leaping. I have just put biro on my top, which is not great. Okay, so back to quantum leaping. If you are going for a quantum leap, you will most likely not have a perfect plan in place. So if you're quantum leaping, you're usually acting on some sort of divine spark of inspiration. I find those moments happen where I can then take inspired action from them, not in my head at my computer when I am sitting down thinking about what is going to make my quantum leap. That rarely for me is the way that it happens. It's usually, like I said, when I got the idea to do this, it's usually when I'm on a walk with Bella, I'm doing yoga, I'm at the gym, I'm journaling, in meditation. This little spark usually happens when you are not in your head, but in your body. So I feel like we try, and usually I find when the idea comes from your head, when you've been thinking about it, usually they're the ones that work when you have to put a lot of work into them and put a lot of effort behind them to make them happen, because they haven't necessarily been this beautiful divine spark of inspiration. And when something comes from that more inspired place, I find those are the things that fly. Those are the things that are easy and just really, really happen. I remember one of my very first experiences of having a download back in 2015, I want to say, and it was just coming, the words were just coming through me. I couldn't write them down fast enough, and I obviously wrote them down, but I had never really experienced that before, that sheer just flow of consciousness coming through me. And when I took action, so you have to take the divine spark of inspiration, I took those words, put them into an ebook, and popped up on the lovely internet, and overnight I had 400 sign-ups, and to date that is my fastest ever opt-in that ever worked for me, ever. And it came, and it's consistently done what did really well for all the years I had it running. Maybe I'll resurrect that again, but it was great. So I don't think, had I sat at my laptop and thought, ooh, what will I say are my 20 tips to, I guess I had a quantum leap last time, and actually some of those 20 tips would be really relevant now. It just wouldn't have resonated in the same way with people. So maybe I should resurrect it. Anyway, we'll come back to that. I actually haven't thought of that in forever, and that's another piece. When I'm doing lives, I never know what's going to, I might have a couple of ideas, but I never really know what is going to come out of my mouth. Like yesterday, I had no idea I was going to share about that magazine cover. I hadn't thought of it for years, but going live for some reason accesses these deep recesses of my brain, and these random examples pop out of my mouth. So anyway, that was my 20 tips back in the day. So probably not going to have a perfect plan, and that is okay. I feel a lot of people get caught up in the planning process, and sometimes it can become a bit of a failure to launch situation. I used to have a client, she was very A-type and loved a plan, like loved a plan, right? And there's nothing wrong with loving a plan, okay? But she would make a wonderful plan all the thing, and then by the time she went to implement, the sort of energy and the impetus to do it was gone, and so she would end up doing nothing. And then, you know, a month or two later, she'd be like, I'm going to plan something new, and she would spend months planning something new, and then it might not quite get there. So sometimes when we spend too long in the planning stage, the moment goes, the energy goes, the opportunity sort of vanishes and disappears, and it can be so addictive for people. You know, we like to be organized. It feels less scary, but in this quantum leap process, we are purposefully sort of destabilizing ourselves, and we have to be okay with that to a point in this process, right? So there's a little bit of that, and you sort of make the leap, you do the thing, and then you can sort of catch up and pull the pieces of the puzzle together a little bit later on. So one of the things, again, random, wasn't going to mention this, but one of the things, I don't know if I must have heard on a podcast or something like that, so many people, and myself included, have gone in the past and built things for people. We mentioned this actually in the Christine podcast, is we go and we spend a whole ton of time creating something that we think people want in that planning stage, right? We can spend months getting a course together, we've got our branding, we've got all the stuff, and then we find it doesn't sell, for instance. And again, that can be very difficult for people. It can feel very like a smack in the face, or it can feel quite demoralizing. And what a lot of the sort of better advice, I suppose, or more advice that I wouldn't have minded having earlier in my business, would have been to create a wait list. And so you put out an expression of interest, and you're like, hey, if I did this thing, would you be interested? Right? So it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. It can save you months and months of time from going out and creating something, and then it's not actually what the market wants. So I like that. I really like that idea of doing it the opposite way, and, you know, getting that expression of interest first, and then creating and building off the back of it when you know that you've got something that people are interested in and could work, and it stops you getting so stuck in that planning phase. So have a think about that. Okay, the next part is it probably doesn't make sense. So most of my family and friends don't think I make sense anyway, so that's fine. But your plan or your goal might not make sense to literally anyone else, and that is okay. But this is about trusting that your goal, your delusional idea, and trusting that desire that's within you, trusting that divine spark of inspiration, and holding on to that, and not being sort of beaten down by anybody else who doesn't think it's possible, who doesn't believe in whatever it is you're trying to achieve. I've had that a number of times where I've felt delusional, but yeah, that's the stuff that really you pull off like unbelievably. So it doesn't have to make sense to be the thing that you're going for. So don't worry about that. Next piece of it, so really it's about really trusting your desire, trusting that if it's been put in your heart, it's there for a reason, and you don't get these desires and ideas for nothing, right? Like, if you've got the desire and the idea, I believe there is a way to make it possible. Okay, 2 seconds. Okay, so, and the next little piece of the puzzle is what you've done in the past might not work in the future, right? So the way it used to work, and I think a lot of people had that wake up call in the last few years, like things are different now, right? Things that used to work no longer work, different approaches, things like that. So it's what you've done before, and it might have even worked in the past, might not be the approach to take this time, right? So I've always been a bit more planned. I've never jumped on and done something like this completely out of the blue, that I remember anyway. Well, maybe there was one time. Anyway, but you are probably going to be doing it differently from last time, and that's okay. So just because if you did a challenge last time, or if you wrote an ebook last time, that might not be the next thing for yourself, for your audience, for your next leap. Or even if you tried a certain diet last time, right? If that's your big goal, is to lose weight, it might not be the same approach that worked in your 20s, right? Like I did Weight Watchers back in the day, lost weight, but I wouldn't say that approach wouldn't work for me now. Plus, I probably know too much, right? In the past, I remember, this is very random, but I remember my friend was doing it and she was like, I can have, 20 points today, so I'm going to have a whole tub of clotted cream and 2 scones, and that's 20 points. And I was like, I'm like, I don't think that's how it's supposed to work, right? But according to the rules, that worked, and that was going to work. But in the bigger scheme of things, having a whole tub of clotted cream and 2 scones probably isn't ideal for your weight loss journey or your overall general health, right? So, and if that's what you want to do, that is great and fine. And if that works for you, fine. But for me, I don't think I could personally do that. But instead of Weight Watchers, now I'm more interested in intermittent fasting, right? And doing my liver gallbladder flushes and that kind of thing, right? That makes more sense to me, right? And trying to balance my hormones and that kind of stuff, right? Rather than just, taking the next sugar-free, fat-free, whatever thing just to keep my points lower, but knowing it's actually a whole bunch of, crap. Okay, so last part of this, the question that I will leave you with today is, what would you do if you couldn't mess it up? Right? What would you do if you couldn't mess it up? Right? Just take a moment. You probably know exactly what that thing is, right? Maybe it's writing a book. Maybe it's starting a podcast. Maybe it's whatever that thing is. But what would you do if you couldn't mess it up? And I'm sure you know what that is. So I will leave you with that for now. And I will see you tomorrow. And hopefully I have less resistance to this tomorrow. I'm quite happy here now. I'm quite happy. I feel okay. I'm enjoying it. It's nice to talk, right? I have in human design, I said I was a projector. I'm a 6-2, which is a hermit leader. The 6 is apparently leader vibes, but the 2 is hermit vibes, right? So to me, they are quite opposite. And I'm also in my phase of age as a 6-2 that I'm technically called something on the roof. So as I'm 43, and being on the roof means, well, I made all of my, I've made a whole bunch of mistakes since 30, but in theory, you kind of, you go through these 3 stages, 0 to 30, 30 to 50, and then 50 and beyond. And 30 to 50 is what they call on the roof. So you are, as this hermit, you're also naturally less, I'm in my more introverted stage. I'm an introverted extrovert, right? I like my alone time, my downtime, and my hermit is like so happy to spend time on my own. My family also doesn't get that. They think that is crazy, but I'm doing a house sit for 10 days at the beginning of July, and I am so happy. Nearly 12 days of being on my own in blissful silence, well, with 2 dogs. But to me, I will have no interactions, no humans. I might still be doing my lives, who knows, but that excites me, right? So I am very, very happy about that. But for some people, that would be their worst nightmare, right? Like solitary confinement, where I'm like, oh no, this is like incredible. So that is definitely my hermit coming out to play, and being that on the roof part. So on the roof, it's hard to sort of define, but it's kind of like you retreat a little bit back into your shell, you observe things, you sort of take more of a sort of bird's eye view of dynamics and things, and you do a lot of healing work, and you're sort of less out there. But the cool thing about all this is, although I was devastated when I first found this out, but at 50 I'm meant to come into my own. You come off the roof, you're more sociable, you want to be out and about more, so I have all that to look forward to. So 6-2s are quite late bloomers in a sense, because of this coming off the roof thing at 50. So yeah, so maybe, and apparently you sort of, everything sort of clicks into place, you get it, you're all of the stuff you've learned sort of all just goes ding 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 ding, and you just get it. So who knows what will happen once I hit 50. Hopefully I will just get even more fabulous. But yeah, definitely feeling like, compared to my 30s when I like never missed a Friday or a Saturday night out for like 10 years, major party, like just wild child, definitely feel like a completely different human to that version of me. And if I have like 2 social engagements in 1 week, that's usually plenty. So we shall see. Anyway, I have at least 3 social engagements this coming week, so we'll see how I go. But anyways, I will leave you with that. What would you do if you couldn't mess it up, right? Drop it below if you're brave enough. But otherwise, I will see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.